First of all, just to wrap up the other day, last Saturday, I thought we came out with great focus. We need to be able to continue to do that as we move forward. Wyoming football team is an extremely well-coached football team. We have a lot of respect for what Coach Bull has been able to do at North Dakota State, and you can see some of the things that's starting to happen already at Wyoming. Found a way to win last week. Very exciting game at the end of the game. I think when you look at them offensively, I think their tailbacks are excellent. But an outstanding wide receiver that is on the Blitnikoff list that has a streak of 41, I think, games where he's caught a pass. Going to try and play physical, defensively, collectively, run very well, and a lot of different things that they do. So homecoming this week. So that'll be another opportunity for our players to come back. Drew Stanton will be the honorary captain for this week. So he'll be back. He's on his bye week. And it'll be an exciting week and be great to see some of our guys. So I'll take some questions.
George. Thanks. Coach, just clear this up, get this out of the way real quick since you brought up Drew Stanton. Nick Foles, I know your media guy doesn't recognize him as a former Spartan. I'm wondering, how you recognize Foles. Do you look at him as a Michigan State guy, and what type of relationship do you have with him now?
I have a great relationship with Nick. Although he didn't graduate from Michigan State and play here, I consider him one of our guys, one of my guys. And as a matter of fact, I talked to his father yesterday, and then talked to Nick. Recently got married, and so his life is going obviously very, very well. But he was a great young man. He's an extremely talented guy, and it was sort of unique that we had Brian Hoyer, Nick Foles, and Kirk Cousins all in the same room as quarterbacks being coached by Dave Warner back in 2007. But he's a great young man, great football player.
And then just to follow up on the game, the coach was saying yesterday that when they were North Dakota State, I guess they spent time with you. They studied your offense, and how different is your offense now than when you were letting these guys in your
Yeah, coaches tend to share. So North Dakota State's been here, and spent time with us. And I can't remember exactly what date it was or anything like that, but people evolve. We've changed and things of that nature. So in the end, it comes down to players making plays on the field. You can draw them all up any way you want. And if you get your guys playing hard, and they tackle and block well and catch the ball well, good things are going to happen.
Mark, sorry. At depth chart this week, you got Burbage and Kingsville listed as yours at wide receiver. Do you see playing time there changing that position at all this week?
I think that Aaron Burbage has played very, very well. McGarrett's played very, very well. Both those guys are really, they're interchangeable with R.J. Shelton and with Keith Mumphrey. So I just think that we list them like that because you just don't know who's going to be playing in there.
Mark, kind of following up on the question with the quarterbacks, think back to that fall with those guys. Obviously, Hoyer was your starter, but could you have imagined at that point that three of those guys would end up in the NFL? What did you see from Cousins and Foles, especially that first year?
Well, Nick was a big, strong-arm guy. He was very successful in high school. Big, he was about 6'5", 220 pounds even at that time. Got a great arm, live arm. Kirk Cousins came in, as I remember, had a great fall camp. As most freshmen go, he plateaued a little bit, leveled off, as both of them did. And Kirk had great attention to detail. He didn't really know which guy was going to be the guy. He just knew that both guys were great individuals, great young men, had passion for the game, and were going to compete. And then you had Brian Hoyer, who was in his second year, and he was obviously a fifth-year senior, and much farther along in terms of the offense and things of that nature. And he's done an outstanding job where he's gone, and he did a great job in 2008. But we thought that both guys, when we try and assess guys, we thought that both young men were going to be great quarterbacks.
Mark, Nick Hill's a player who's kind of been certainly overlooked. People, freshmen come in, people want to see freshmen. He's kind of stuck it out, fought through some injuries, held a spot at least, competing for that number 2 spot. Can you talk about your affinity for him and his stick-to-itiveness with his program a little bit?
Yeah, Nick's First of all, Nick's graduated, so Nick had the opportunity, if he wanted to go on, in a different direction and play immediately at any other college in this country. You know, could have gone anywhere and been the featured back, decided to stay, and it really was never in question, really. But, you know, I recognized that fact that he could do that. And he, you know, by nature of being a Spartan, was going to stay and play and compete. He's had a great spring. He's had a great fall camp. And, you know, he's a guy that, he's got a very workmanlike attitude, tough, catch the ball very well, he'll block, he'll do all the necessary things he has to do. And, you know, you've seen some very exciting runs from him in his time here.
Mark, getting back into McGarrett a little bit, it seemed like he had a pretty solid game the other day, but just want to ask you what you've seen from him coming out of his suspension he had in the spring. I mean, are you seeing the things you want from him, and can we see that role maybe for him growing on the field?
Yeah, you know, we've got depth at our wide receiver position. I think we've got good players there, and you know, we want to be able to use those guys and recognize their talents and use them correctly. And you know, McGarrett had a big punt returner sort of start the whole process last Saturday, and then I think in the first quarter had 2 more big plays. So he's an exciting player to watch. His role expands, but you know, I don't know if it expands or it stays the same. But you know, he's been a playmaker for us really last year as well. So. As far as him doing what he's supposed to do, he's doing what he's supposed to do. So, you know, everything remains, and you know, we just keep moving forward, both on and off the field.
Mark, I don't see Connor Cruz listed on the depth chart, but we were told he might be ready to come back this week.
Yeah.
Is he going to be available for you guys?
We're going to find out what he can do here later in the week here on Wednesday, and then we'll make a decision by then. He may be on the depth chart at game time, but I didn't want to list him right now because it just felt like, you know, not really quite sure. So, but he's close.
Mark, some of the angst going on down the road in Ann Arbor is partly your fault for winning a lot here and flipping the script on that rivalry. Do you feel any sympathy for that program or for Brady Hoke, who you've spoken fondly of, personally, I guess, from a human aspect?
I think that, you know, first of all, coaching college football at this level is a very, very difficult job. There's a lot of criticism. You know, I guess there's a lot of fanfare, plus and negative. So, I think basically what I'm trying to say is I don't think there's a bad football coach out there. I think there's things that start to roll in one way or the other, and a lot of it is chemistry sometimes. You know, relative to what's going on at the moment. But I have a lot of respect for Brady and what he's done, and the coach that he is and the man that he is. But I also know and am very sensitive to media coverage, I guess you'd say. And so it's up and down. So it's never as good as you want it, never as bad as you want it. Or it is as it is. I don't know if that's a good quote or not. But you know, I just try to consider myself in my little bubble here. It could burst at any point.
Just to follow up, you don't really have any empathy for them, right?
Empathy? I don't know. I have empathy for people, yeah.
Mark, when you come off a laugher, as it turned out to be, do you get concerned about players thinking this game's easy?
No, the game's not easy. The game became as it was because of the turnovers as much as anything. And when you make mistakes, you know, bad things happen. But you know, our focus needs to be on getting better. And as we talked about, you know, we compete against ourselves as well as the opponent. And every time you step on that field, you're being critiqued. And so we're trying to become better and better and better as we move through the process. We were able to do that last year. We were a much better football team at the end of the year than we were at the beginning of the year, and I think that's because we got better. We stayed focused, and you know, hopefully that's the makeup of this football team. But I think we're still in that. I still believe that we're in that time period right now. We're still trying to find out who we are a little bit. As we move forward, you know, we're going to find out more this week. I think Wyoming's a very well-coached football team. I think they play hard. They've got good players, know, they've played Oregon, they played some other teams tough, and we're going to find out a little bit more about ourselves and then get into the Big Ten season the following week. So we need to continue to try and build an identity. Who are we? How do we react when things go poorly? All those different things.
Any other questions for Coach?
I just wondering about the safety position. Where is Monte Nicholson right now? Is he really pushing to get on the field more?
Yeah, I think he's pushing to get on the field because of the nature of his ability, and he's young. It's usually when you're young, there's a big curve. And you'd like to see it play out a little bit to see where does he plateau, and then you know. Then you'll know where this is where he's at this year at this point in time. But when you're a young player, you tend to learn as you move forward, and games are different than practices. They just are. Things are going a lot faster. There's more on the line. But he's an active player. He's he's 6'2" plus. He's extremely quick and fast, and he's 212 pounds, and he's a good tackler. He's got great ball skills. So usually when that happens, you're trying to push the envelope a little bit, trying to find out what's going on. Thought RJ had a good game. Curtis playing well. Cox needs to continue to try and up his game as well. But we've got good players, and the competition level is fierce. We play against good players. Even against Eastern Michigan this past week, they hit a play down the chute. They're good. They're a well-coached football team, and they have plays that work too. So he's just continue to try and push the envelope.
Following up on that, how difficult is that position as a true freshman, and how much of RJ's intangibles helped him get where he is?
I think it's difficult. I think the game is a game of adjustments, especially at the safety position. Very few times do you call it just a coverage. I don't really know of a coverage. It just stays that particular coverage, and this is what you do too often anymore. There's so many different formations that you see, and you have to be in the correct alignment versus those formations or the wide receiver sets that, that takes practice, that takes awareness, and there's always seems to be something that you never worked on that you encounter in a football game. You have to adjust on the fly. So every game's different. This game will be different than the Eastern game, which was different than the Oregon game, just in terms of what they run and how they run it. And that's where the tough situations come, because you have to adjust every single week defensively. You may be called, hey, let's just say cover 4, but that cover 4 is going to be different this week than it is next week because of who you're playing and how it adjusts out. I think it's pretty normal these days with the different offenses we're seeing.
I'm sure the landscape of college football came up before the season, but as I'm hearing and reading now, it's almost like there's this almighty Final Four and everyone else is nobody. Is there the danger in this system now that for 20 or 30 programs, yourselves included now, that if you don't get in the Final Four, the season's a failure?
Well, I'm not looking at it like that. I'm looking at it like, we need to get to the championship game. That's our goal. That's always been our goal. We need to win the Big Ten championship. That's our goals. And then you springboard past that. I think, maybe it's like basketball a little bit, where if you don't get to the Final Four, maybe it's not as successful, maybe. But expectations have something to do with that. You want expectations to be high. That's what we came here for. We came here and said 7, 8 years ago, whatever it's been, that we wanted to win championships and compete for them on a yearly basis, and that's what we're doing. So yeah, the expectations have risen here, but you still need to keep things in perspective, I think, as well. Within our program, and understand that it's very difficult. You got to be game ready every single game. You got to be ready to play and focus.
Coach, 2 things for you, completely different. One, I'm wondering, the early starts, later arriving crowds, do you notice that big bank of empty seats? Do you have a thought about that? And then secondly, if you could just go through, Mike Sadler's recovery. We all know he had the surgery after the spring. How closely you monitor him, and where you think he's at right now?
First question, I've always appreciated, you guys got to remember, I coached at Youngstown State, I coached at University of Akron, coached at Butler County Junior College. Didn't have many players at Butler people in Butler County when we played, okay? So I don't get involved in the attendance. I'm involved in how loud the crowd is, how excited the crowd is, and more importantly, how excited our own players are. So there are certain things you can control, certain things you can't. And in this day and age, you see it all over the country. You know, you can go out to the Coliseum in LA and it's never packed. So, you know, they have a great program. So across the board, just deal with it, and but I'm sure that you know, in a couple of weeks it'll be packed. But so with that being said, I appreciate the people who come, appreciate the time and effort that it takes to get here, the amount of money it takes to buy tickets for this place, and the tailgate, and do all the different things that we've done. And all I can tell you is Michigan State's been in the top 25 in attendance in this country for the last, I think, 60 years, near 60. So it is one of those places that are the haves, and it will continue to always be one of the haves long after I'm gone. And I think that's the important aspect of it.
Sadler?
Mike Sadler, you know, just like we've always done, we limit his punting on Wednesdays, and Tuesdays he'll punt, Thursdays he'll punt. I think his knee is responding. I think he gets a little frustrated a little bit, but he was booming the ball in the spring and in summer camp and everything, and I think he's been a little frustrated maybe, but he's still punting very well. But you know, he's a very good punter, he's a gamer, and I don't really worry about Mike Sadler is not one of the guys that I worry about here. You know, he'll do the job.
Real quick, at linebacker, I see Ed Davis still as the starter, but Riley started last week. Is that going to just be kind of a situational thing, or do you see Riley playing more, or how's that going to play out?
Ed does what he's supposed to do, he'll start.
Are there things he's not doing, the reason he didn't start?
On occasion, yeah.
Going back to your Final Four comparison, I mean, obviously Tom Izzo deals with that Final Four bust mindset kind of every year. Did you talk to him at all this offseason or before just about handling those expectations or success or anything like that?
No, I haven't talked to him about the Final Four, you know, if that's what we're calling it, the Final Four stuff here. I have talked to him about expectations a lot, about how things, you know, things have changed a little bit in that respect. I actually talked to him a lot about those things. And, you know, it's challenging, but that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing, you know. So that's one of the reasons I think that we're here. And again, I've already talked about that. So I think that we're here to win championships. I think we've gotten ourselves to that level where we can compete for championships, and I think that that's a positive.
Do you do anything differently this year because of those expectations?
Well, we talked about it. You know, we talked about handling success, as we've said, you know, earlier in the season, and we talked about that a lot. We want to make sure that we ground ourselves and look at every opportunity as an opportunity, not to give it, not be entitled.
Mark, along some of those lines, do you worry that the value of a conference championship, with all this kind of weekly talk about who's in this Final Four, is being diminished, and there's elements of the playoff that are actually ruining some of the things that are great about college football?
No, I think that a Big Ten championship ring is still going to mean the same thing. It's going to mean excellence in your area, where in your league, in your area, and then beyond that, you know, great things are possible beyond that. But you have to do that first, and I think that's the main focus that we have to have. We can't say, hey, let's try and go. Let's try and go 11-1, not get in the championship game, and then we'll get into the playoffs. I don't think it should work like that. That's just my opinion. Glad we don't play in that championship game. We'll get in the Final Four. I don't think that should work like that. And hopefully the committee sees that as such too. You should be in my vision is that you should be a champion of your league before you can be a champion of the country. That would be my vision if I was doing it. Now, it might not happen like that. That would be my vision.
You mentioned tailgating. Have you ever tailgated in your pre-coaching life?
Let's see,
Ever?
does after the game count?
Yeah, yes.
And I've tailgated.
How about before a game?
No, no, never have.
There you go.
Never have.
Mark, you mentioned the style of offense for Wyoming. How different is this for especially for your defense, to face a team like this? Does it help at all moving forward as you look toward the Big Ten?
They are probably more like us than anybody that we played, actually. And so I think that's a positive for us. They run the power. They're going to keep it tight in the A-gap and be downhill run team. They run the G play or the truck play, which is outside pulling people. They want to be a two-back team. They have a good fullback. They got two good tailbacks. They want to run the football. So a lot of what they do is similar to us in that respect.
Does that help at all moving forward to have a game like this?
Yeah, I think it helps. I don't know how many teams out there is like that. So, but the only focus I really have is what's it do for us this game.
Any other questions for Coach?
That's all good?
Thanks a lot, Coach.
All right, thank you.